Hi, this is video 1 about passive voice. In this video, I will focus on the basic idea behind passive verbs, how passive verbs are different from active verbs, and how to build the sentence. First, I want you to think about this idea. We know verbs carry information about time. So here I have listed several verb tenses that you've studied. But verbs can give more information, not just about time. So you will see examples of simple past written with active voice and then passive voice, and you will see how they provide different information. So let's start looking at some differences between passive verbs and active verbs. Think about this question. Did the subject do the action of the verb? Did the subject do the action? So look at these basic sentence patterns. Subject plus verb plus object. So he cried, he wrote 3 essays. In both of these cases, the subject is he, and the subject did the action of the verb. That's active voice. Probably the great majority of the sentences that you have studied and written so far have been active verbs. Next, think about this question. Did the subject receive the action of the verb? So we're looking at the difference between doing the action and receiving the action. These first 2 examples don't make any sense. Look, they have the same subject as above, and they have the same main verb, but it's written with passive voice. These do not make sense because the subject did the verb, and that means I need to write it as an active verb. However, the next 3 use passive voice, and these are correct. The essays were written by him. He was told to write 3 essays. He was hired for the job. So in these cases, the subject receives the action. The essays did not write themselves. Who did the action? Him, over here. He was told to write 3 essays. Who did the action? Tell. It was not he. It was not him. It was probably his teacher, right? And his teacher is not even in this sentence, but we can figure it out. Okay, it makes sense to think about the general meaning of the word passive. What does it mean in real life? From the dictionary, we have this definition. Passive, used to describe someone who allows things to happen without trying to change anything. So first look at the 2 dogs. This dog is passive. It looks frightened. It looks like it wants to hide or run away. It's afraid it's going to be punished. We see the tail between the legs. This dog is not passive. He's the opposite. He may attack, right? This student over here looks very passive. He looks sleepy, bored. He's not doing anything. He has no books, no laptop, no pen, no pencil, no paper, nothing. He's very passive. He's probably not learning anything. Sometimes we describe people's personalities this way: passive, assertive, aggressive. So again, the passive person just allows things to happen. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't try to change anything. Assertive and aggressive people do things and try to change things. The difference is we often see assertive as a good quality and aggressive as a negative quality because maybe the person is too forceful or trying to start a fight. Anyway, it's very helpful to think about the general idea behind the word. It's going to match the grammar. Keep thinking about the subject. And this question, did the subject do the action of the verb? So, first example, she finished her first marathon. Yay. Is this a passive verb? No. Did the subject do the action? Yes. This is an active verb. At the bottom, now we have passive. Was hit. Why is this one passive? The red car was hit by the yellow car. Did the red car do something? No. The red car is the subject, right? But it didn't do anything. Did the red car receive an action? Did something happen to the red car? Yes. That's why this is a passive sentence. You could also write the sentence this way. The yellow car hit the red car. And that would be active, like the ones at the top. Okay, here are several examples. I like these because they all use simple past, and maybe it's easy to see some differences. I'm also using color, using red for the passive verbs and green for active verbs. And I wrote examples that are easy for me to remember because they fit with my life. You should create your own examples that help you to remember the difference between active and passive. So the first three are about my parents' house. The house was designed by my parents. My parents designed their own house. Okay, that's the same idea. Both of them were architects. They designed it in the 1950s. It was built in 1960. So they did the action of designing, but they didn't physically build it with the hammers and nails and carpenter's tools. Other people did that, right? So this one is passive voice. The bottom set are about my house. My house was built after World War II. Okay, who did the action? We don't really know. Maybe it's not important. I don't know who designed it. I don't really care because it's not a special house. We made the house bigger about 20 years ago. My mother and sister designed the addition to the house. The addition was designed by my mother and sister. Okay, the last two examples give the same idea. The first one's active, the second one is passive. So always think about the subject of your sentence. Keep this question in mind. Is the subject doing the action? If you say yes, it's probably an active sentence. If you say no, it might be a passive sentence. Keep thinking about real life too. Which one makes sense in life and in grammar? The car repaired itself or the car was repaired? Okay, the picture fits the sentence, but this is not real life, right? So this doesn't really make sense. On the right, this sentence and the picture makes sense. The car was repaired. Okay, again, look at the subjects. Did they do the action? I have the subjects underlined. I have the be verb in red. The be verb is our helping verb. Notice it looks a little different because we're using different tenses. And then the main verb is always the past participle. Some of them have ed because they are regular verbs. Some of them don't because they are irregular. So keep studying your list of irregular verbs, right? But in all of these cases, the subject that's underlined did not do the verb. It happened to the subject. So with a passive sentence, you'll always see this pattern. Subject and the helping verb is be in whatever tense you need. This is where you show the verb tense. And then your main verb would be past participle. We also call it third form. So you might have a regular ed verb, like this example with a designed simple past here. Here, simple past is with the verb be, with was. This word here is not simple past, that's the past participle. So these two look the same, but I would say this one is simple past, this one is past participle. This helping verb is simple past. This slide also shows you how you can transform an active sentence to a passive sentence. If you have a sentence with subject plus verb plus object, what you're going to do is take the object, send it to the front. That becomes your subject in the passive sentence. My parents designed the house. This subject did the action. The focus is on these people. Here's passive voice. The house was designed by my parents. Now the focus is on the house. The verb changed to was designed. And if it's important, we can keep the agent. The agent used to be the subject, right? We add the word by. So sometimes we include that, sometimes we don't. As usual, be careful with past participles. Here's an example. What's the main verb? Eat, right? Eat, ate, eaten. So Eve ate the last piece of cake. That's the object. Send it to the front. The last piece of cake. Put the be verb. Why is it was? Because the original sentence was simple past. Okay, use simple past to go with this subject. And then the verb eat in the third form, eaten. If you want, you can put by Eve, or maybe it's a secret. Don't mention me. Maybe I don't want to be responsible. Okay, you're going to have to be careful with the verb tense of the be verb. That changes. And these are the verb tenses that are most commonly used with passive voice. You might sometimes see other tenses used, but it's pretty rare. So I think you should focus your attention on these. And this last slide shows you examples of several tenses with active voice, then transform to passive voice. So notice that be carries the verb tense. If you're writing a sentence in simple present, in active voice, you put simple present on the verb. In passive voice, you put simple present with the helping verb be. If you're using present progressive, here it is in active voice. In passive voice, it goes with the be verb, is being. And look at the yellow example. Okay, in active voice, these two verbs look the same because they have the same subject, she. What's different? The object, singular and plural. Well, if I change those to passive voice, now I have the subject, the book, for my first one, and the books for the second one. So the helping verb has to change accordingly. Okay, so in each case, whatever tense you're using, simple past, future, future, then add your main verb with past participle. Present perfect. Okay, use present perfect for the be verb. Here it is, has been. Then put your main verb in past participle. Okay, so this is the end of video 1. There's another one with more information. See you next time.